Hey there! So if you've been trying to keep up with the US housing market lately, you've probably got a serious case of whiplash, right? One headline screams, crash, and the very next one is talking about a boom. It's confusing. Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today and figure out what is really going on.
So let's just ask the question straight up. Is the market crashing or is it booming? And the really wild answer is, well, it's both. It is absolutely doing both things at the exact same time. It just depends entirely on where you happen to live.
And I mean, just look at this. This slide lays out the split personality of the market perfectly. Over here, you've got a huge city like Austin, Texas, where prices have just tanked from their peak. But then you look over at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and prices are still climbing year after year. It is a genuine tale of two completely different markets. Let's break down each side of this thing.
All right, first up, let's talk about the markets that flew a little too close to the sun during that whole pandemic boom. You know, the ones that are now feeling the burn.
Okay, so look at this number. Just let it sink in for a second. Negative 23.6%. That is a huge drop. But what does it actually represent?
That drop, that's what happened in Austin, Texas. And the context here is absolutely everything. Because, yeah, that number looks really dramatic, but it came right after an absolutely mind-bending 73% explosion in prices in just 2 years. So a massive chunk of that wild pandemic gain, it's just been wiped clean off the board.
And you know what? Austin is not some weird outlier. Other major cities that had those insane pandemic booms, I'm talking about places like San Francisco, Phoenix, they are also seeing double-digit drops from their peaks. These are serious corrections in what were some of the hottest markets in the entire country.
And this isn't just happening in a couple of places either. We're talking about a clear majority here. 23 out of 33 major metro areas have seen prices fall from their highs. And get this, a lot of them, 17 to be exact, peaked way back in 2022, and they've been on a downward slide ever since. Even the cities that peaked more recently are starting to dip. So the big point here is that this cool down, this deflation, it's a pretty widespread thing.
But hold on, that is literally only half the story. Now let's flip the script and look at the other side of the coin, where a whole different group of cities seems to be completely defying gravity.
Now check this out. This is a totally different picture, right? In complete contrast to what we just saw, cities like Milwaukee, Chicago, and New York are not seeing price drops at all. No way. They're actually seeing solid year-over-year gains. They just keep on climbing and setting new records.
And it's not just those three either. In total, 9 major metro areas were still hitting all-time price highs according to the latest data. Now this list, it's a mix of cities, mostly in the Midwest and the Northeast. And what's interesting is these are places that didn't have that same insane speculative run-up like Austin or Phoenix did. Their growth has been a lot steadier, maybe more sustainable, and it just keeps chugging along.
Okay, so we've got one group of cities falling hard and another group still climbing. How on earth do you square that circle on a national level? How does this all fit together?
Well, this right here is the key to the whole puzzle. When you pull back and look at the US as a whole, these two completely opposite forces, the big drops in the old boom towns and the steady gains in these other markets, they basically cancel each other out. It all kind of averages out, and the result is a national housing market that looks, well, pretty flat. And this all boils down to what is maybe the single most important rule in real estate, a line that comes straight from our source material. Every housing market dances to its own dynamics. What that really means is that real estate is and always will be local, deeply local. Those national headlines can be so misleading because honestly, what's happening in Phoenix has almost nothing to do with what's happening in Philadelphia.
So after all these numbers and charts, what's the bottom line? What does this tale of two markets actually mean for you?
This quote from the source Wolf Street, I think it just nails it. The real story here isn't just about prices going up or down today. It's about the affordability crisis that was created when prices shot up by an absolutely unsustainable 40, 50, even 70% in just a couple of years. The corrections that we're seeing now, they're a direct result of that unbelievable boom. So the takeaway here is pretty clear, right? The next time you see a big, flashy national headline about the housing market, just remember, it never tells the whole story. The only numbers that really matter are your local ones. Which leaves us with the final question. What's happening where you live? Is your city's market deflating or is it still climbing? The answer to that, well, it reveals everything.